Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brandy, for that awesome introduction. My first card was introduce yourself, but you've already done most of what I was going to say. So my name is Russel Lepley. I'm co-founder of FluxFlow Dance Center. I think it's also worth mentioning that my partner, Feely, is also an amazing dance artist facilitator, and we collaborate pretty much on everything. So my work with FluxFlow is very much in collaboration with Feely, and it's also like what I do as an individual is always in conversation with them, and their creative voice and their way of approaching leadership is something that influences me a lot, and I value a lot. I was really excited today. How do I work this to get... There we go. Oh, that's me. Yeah, and that's Feely, and the one with the little faux tango. Yeah. Me teaching some ballet, me performing, and we'll move on. So, the theme soft actually just felt like a perfect fit whenever it was proposed. Like, yeah, that makes sense. We do a lot of, teaching dance forms to adult beginners. We do art making with people who don't necessarily identify as artists. And so all of that requires softness. And also just personally, like I was raised in sort of a conservative family that had a lot of ideas of how I was supposed to show up as a man in the world. And so a lot of my work as an adult has been accessing my softness, embracing my softness, and like living that out in a way that feels satisfying. So I really liked this prompt. And FluxFlow, the name of the space, kind of fits with that. Feely and I were both professional dancers for a decade. We both lived in multiple cities, different countries, learned different languages. It was a lot of adapting. So with change, being soft and adaptable allows you to navigate shifts in life. So we wanted our dance space to be something that helped people flow through the changes that life just invariably brings. You have highs, you have lows, but we can have dance, we can have community as something that helps us move through it. I also like soft because it's in contrast with hardness, which gets a lot of attention in our culture, like working hard, being invulnerable and bulletproof, and there's a lot of like trying to build up walls, and I think that there's value in structure and form to like accomplish things, and also, holding true to what your values are, but being soft and malleable and able to embrace change is also really important. So I think of softness as part of a balance. And we were saying to do a little dance idea. So playing with this an example of when form is a little better with a little bit of looseness. We're going to play with just a ballet hand. So if you have a free hand available, you can bring it in front of yourself. First, like it's a little hand model action, Maybe take like a silk elbow-length glove off of that hand to reveal it. Yes. And then imagine that the middle finger and the thumb are like in relationship. It's like they're holding a permanent marker, but a lot of times I like to say it's like Romeo and Juliet. They're in love, but they can't be together quite. And they're always in relationship to each other. And then the other fingers kind of splay out from there. And so this is kind of the typical shape of the ballet hand in various port-de-bras, yeah? Port-de-bras is like the carriage of the arm. Everyone take that shape and then make it hard. Really stiffen it up. And then move it through space. It doesn't really feel that great. It doesn't really look that great, right? It's not lovely. So we have this form, but we want to think we let that hand get affected by the air and the pathway. So it can follow momentum, but we're still kind of respecting and working with what the form of this particular dance form requires. And each dance form has its own kind of forms, and in dance, finding that balance of respecting this form, but finding freedom within it is really like applicable, and it's a good example of that. So, this is some Kate Sweeney photographs. We did a piece at the Wexner Center for the Arts in like 2019, so I had to bring that in. And that talked a lot about kind of my journey out of professional dance world, like that piece that I made. So you can see a little frustrated monkey and a kind of half enthusiastic, all made up, little bear. And so I got into dance when I was a kid. I loved dancing so much. It felt good. I loved performing. So it was just something that was natural. And as I got more serious about it, I got into a very serious ballet program and really bought into ballet. And ballet is a really beautiful form, but it's also a pretty complicated culture, and it has a lot of issues. Like there are certain body types that will not even be allowed into the room of an elite dance program. Like it is not inclusive by nature. So that mixed with like very competitive environments that encouraged a lot of comparison, environments where you were kind of encouraged to overwork at the edge of what was really healthy for your body. It became something that was just like my way of being for a long time. And so as I like went through that as a career, I worked as a ballet dancer and then as a contemporary dancer. There were just a lot of situations that I got into where I was working with choreographers who would treat dancers poorly, and as a dancer, you just didn't have a lot of say. There's a lot of people who want to be dancers, and it's kind of like, well, you want to keep the job, you got to put up with the stuff. And so I loved being a dancer because I got to travel all over the world. I lived in like 5 different cities. I learned a couple of different languages. I met my partner working for a contemporary dance company in Germany. So it was exciting, but as I became an adult, I realized that I had to sacrifice a lot of myself and my authenticity and also like do things that were kind of in contrast with my values. And so it just started to not feel like a good fit. And I met my partner, Feely, and we both felt that way. And we said, how can we keep dance in our lives in a way that can work for us and then also feel like we're nourishing ourselves and other people? So we decided to start a dance space. We knew we wanted to work with adults, and we did that in Columbus. And we try with that space to kind of keep the things that we appreciate about dance and value about the form, but then invite softness in. So these classes invite people of all ages. We do things like ballet, but we also have a lot of classes that are just like fun and silly. We have a class called Dance Karaoke, a class called Dance Party, Club Flow, and they're all just about like joy of movement. So focusing on how dance can create community, and a lot of that is around softness, around accepting people where they're at, and encouraging people to be soft with themselves. So you can be striving for something and working towards a goal without being overly critical of yourself, and without doing it in comparison with others, doing it as like a personal journey. So we do a lot of work, talking to people in that way when we instruct classes at FluxFlow. We have a wonderful staff above there, a really awesome group of people who teach and welcome people in the studio. And one of the things that's really important to us as a space is being inclusive of varied identities and being affirming of queerness. So for me, queerness and softness are also very tied because there's a lot of softening self-definitions. And by, I kind of mentioned at the beginning of feeling like a lot of pressure to be a certain kind of a man, being able to like let go and undo a lot of that is part of softness where it gave myself freedom. But something that I also think is valuable at softness is if you are soft with other people, you allow them a lot more freedom. So as somebody who's managing a community and creating community, giving people the space to change while they're with you is a really generous thing to do. An example I have of that is like my partner Feely transitioned like 3 years ago, and it really required me to adjust a definition of myself, a definition of my identity, and in doing that, there were moments of that were challenging, but ultimately, Feely is a more fuller, beautiful version of themselves, and I am the better for like growing into a different version of myself as well. So there's a lot of value in allowing people to shift and embracing change. Thanks. This year, you can see my little 2-year-old. My partner Feely would be here, but they're with my kid. So on my shoulders in that bottom photo is my son at Pride this past year. We did collaborate with Columbus Museum of Art for Pride, and so we do a lot of also like how do we bring our life and our personal life to our community, and it's something that I'm very proud of now that that I get to kind of like live my life in a full way around a community of people who support me. And that was one of those moments when I kind of was like in the hustle of doing it. It's like, yeah, we'll do that. And then like the moment of the event was very affirming to just see, like I built this family that I didn't think, at one age, there was just a point when I thought like, oh, I'll never have this. And so it was really cool to not only have it, but then have a whole community of people with us, celebrating us and pushing forward in these times when it is important to find the balance. And that's kind of where I'm going to finish, is finding the balance, because I think softness and embracing change is valuable, but I also think having form and structure is important. And I think in the world we're at right now, there's a lot of changes that are not welcome. And so there's a responsibility for us as artists and small business owners to maintain our commitment to creating spaces where queer identities are validated, where diversity is celebrated. I feel like by making spaces right now where we are staying true to our values, it's important because it's exhausting. Everyone's exhausted. And it's one of the few spaces where I think people like us, who are the smaller version of organizations, almost matter the most, because we've seen a lot of our institutions have to sort of bow down towards the changes. An example is like the National Endowment for the Arts. Their whole website has like shifted in a way that is wild. So somebody who like looks for grants and things to apply for, and what they're like now, how they have to word things. These institutions that we looked to before can't necessarily be counted on when they're relying on federal funding. So for small businesses, for local artists, for people who are making things in the community, like this is our time to be really strong with the form and strong in what we believe in, but soft with ourselves, and understand that we only have so much capacity, and be soft with one another and stay solid with one another as creators and as people who care, and just keep making spaces for the change that we want to see for the world we want to live in. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.